Hey everyone, just kind of stumbling around here. I put some fresh strings on this morning, breaking them in, with this extreme playing style that I have, just, tearing these poor strings to shreds. Oh man, thank you so much. Hey Jerry. Just really playing some slow stuff here, thinking about string balance, trying a slightly different set of strings than I've had on here anytime recently. So I changed the strings. I adjusted the saddles with a strobe tuner. Hopefully it's pretty well in tune. Also adjusted the pole pieces for string to string balance. I think it's in pretty good shape, so just trying to see if it needs any more tweaking, or maybe my right hand technique needs some tweaking. What are you all thinking about? What are you working on? This is an office hours session, which is just really an Ask Me Anything session. I like to call it office hours. Something about that sounds a little cozier than Ask Me Anything, but you can call it what you want. So, does anybody have any questions? I'm glad to just keep playing slow motion uh, harmony and do what I'm doing, but I'd love to get into some stuff with you if you have questions or just want to share something that you're working on. Mhm. Hey, Florian, thanks. Abril Del 85, when you are improvisation, what are you thinking, chords or scales? Mm, it depends, I guess, on the situation. Maybe tell me more about your question. Can you be more specific about uh, what type of improvisation are you talking about? Like playing a jazz standard or playing a more a song with maybe simpler harmony? Tell me a little bit more, and then I'll try to answer. As far as what I'm doing right now, I'm just thinking about melody and kind of the idea of spread triads, open harmony. So I'll pick a key right now. I'm in B flat. And I'm just trying to articulate the key of B flat through some melody on top. It's not any song that I know. I'm just kind of making up a melody and then trying to put some harmony under it as I go. And I am actually going to lift up this screw just a little bit on both pickups. Let's see if that. I mean, in a guitar solo with jazz harmony. So, like, I don't know, like a song like All the Things You Are. Is that a tune that you know? Thanks, Roberto. I just learned a new word in Italian earlier today, and now I've already forgotten it, but it means like a curmudgeon, like uh, bit bidelotto or something. You can tell me what the correct word is, but a friend of mine lives in Florence, and we were chatting, and I said something about being a curmudgeon, and he told me what the word is. Um, Abril Del 85. You mean in a guitar solo? Uh, so like with jazz harmony, so like playing something like "All the Things You Are." Is that a tune that you might play? Is that a good example? Because I can talk about what I'm thinking about when I would solo over a tune like that. So if that's what you mean, I'll get into it. I just don't don't want to get off on the wrong track. So that's why I'm asking specifically. Everybody cool if I talk about all the things you are and how to solo over a tune like that? I'm going to just give this one more little tweak. Excuse me. This will be my afternoon here at home anyway. I don't mean to bore you guys all with this, but I mentioned at the top of this video I've changed to a slightly different string set, so I'm having to make some Berbero. Maybe that's the word my friend told me. Okay, so let's say I was going to be soloing over all the things you are. And the question was, are you thinking about scales? Are you thinking about chords? I'm not thinking about scales very much, because in a tune like all the things you are, for example, and maybe I'll talk about a different kind of tune as well, but that's a common tune that people like to play. The chords change a lot, pretty much once per bar. And I might think about scale in terms of the first chunk of that, the first 6 bars is all part of the key of A flat. So the first chord is F minor, B flat minor. So that's the 6 chord, the 2 chord, the 5 chord, the 1 chord, the 4 chord. Then we modulate 5, 1 to C. So I wouldn't think about a different scale for each one of those chords. Like I wouldn't think F Aeolian, B flat Dorian, E flat Mixolydian, A flat Ionian, D flat Lydian, G flat Mixolydian, and then C. That's not a wrong way to think or a bad way to think, but I would just think of all of that as being part of the key of A flat major. And so if I were thinking about a scale, I would just think about playing the A flat major scale or even the A flat major pentatonic scale over all that stuff, and then doing the same thing for the last 2 bars of the first 8 bars in C. So that would be like this. If I just think about the key, 1, 2, mm, mm, mm. Right. So, a minute ago when I was playing this kind of sequence, that's not a bad thing to do, but you don't. I mean, that's actually, I think, a really musical, nice thing to do. But you wouldn't need to be thinking about separate scales to achieve that. You could just think of that as a melodic sequence within the key and just starting on the root of each chord. And you don't have to start on the root. You could start on the third of each chord. Right? So I'm thinking key center more than scales. For a tune like all the things you are, where you do stay in one key for chunks of the tune. I might think about chords sometimes as far as chord tones, so that when I'm playing, when I'm improvising, I can convey the harmony It depends on the context. If as I'm playing right now, I'm not using a backing track. Uh, I'm counting on the fact that you know this tune and you can hear the changes going by in your head. If I have a bass player or another guitar player or piano player who's outlining the changes, it can be nice for me to not outline the chords all the time because that's a little bit kind of obvious. If somebody plays F minor 7 and I play the third, and then they play B flat minor 7 and I play the third or the 7, uh, unless you embellish it and kind of, like kind of disguise it a little bit by doing some more melodic action around the chord tones, that it's good to be able to play the chord tones, but it can sound a little bit like you're in music school, like rather than that you're playing music. So that's especially true if I'm playing with other people. If I was going to take a guitar, if I was just going to improvise with nobody backing me up, then I might change that. I might lean more on chord tones. Oh, well, that's weird. So, so now I've been just noodling on the guitar. Now I'm looking back in the chat. Hello, Robert Wall in Georgia. I'm glad that my videos are helping you with your proficiency. And Roberto, so Jerry says, I heard someone talking about guide tone. So please explain. Let me do that because that's a really general thing that I think a lot of folks should know. Guide tones are when you have a chord progression like All the Things You Are, where there's a lot of chords moving, like one chord per bar. Uh, uh, that's a lot of information. When you open up, say, the real book, those chords have 4 notes in them. F minor 7 has a root, a minor third, a fifth, and the flatted 7. So it's F, A flat, C, E flat. And then the second chord is B flat minor 7. That's another chord with 4 notes: B flat, D flat, F, A flat. And then E flat 7 has 4 notes: E flat, G, B, D flat, and so on. That's a lot to keep track of when you're trying to improvise. So, many years ago, somebody figured out that there's these just a couple of notes in each chord that we could really focus on that help define the sound of the harmony. And it's not the root, and it's not the fifth, it's the other 2 notes. It's the third and the seventh. So if I play All the Things You Are with full chords, that would sound like this. Now here's just the guide tones. Here's the third and 7 of F minor, third and 7 of B flat minor, third and 7 of E flat 7, the third and 7 of A flat major 7. You'll notice that they're kind of switching back and forth on the strings. On the F minor 7, the 7 is below the third, if you play it here where I'm playing it. So that's the 7 and the third, 7 and third of F minor. On the B flat, it's third and 7 with just one note changing. The third of F minor is the 7 of B flat minor. And likewise, the third of E flat is the 7 of A flat. So there you would go from E flat 7 to A flat major 7. So you have these notes. So if I play the root of each chord and just that, really hear the harmony. And if you've got a bass player, they're going to do that stuff. If I did just the seven, third, seven, third. So those are the guide tones. The third and the seven of any chord can be considered a guide tone. Sometimes instead of the seven, it's a six. Uh, if it's a major six chord, then you wouldn't have a seven, you'd have the six. Or on a diminished chord, it's a double flat seven, which basically is a six. So you can use those as a kind of simple melody that you can embellish. So I'll do that now. So this is, you know, someone was asking whether I would use scales or chords. Another approach would be guide tones. So one, two, one, two, three. Um, so what I was thinking of just this kind of, I didn't follow it exactly, but I'll try to follow it more exactly now. Two, three, four. Uh, uh, and so on. So that's what guide tone lines are. Uh, Conception, Roberto, if you're still there, that's not a tune that I play, so I'm not that familiar with it. Let me just look for it here. Uh, oh, George Shearing. Wow. Well, that's going to be that's going to I'm looking at the Google results, but I'm imagining just seeing that it's a George Shearing tune, and I see that Bud Powell recorded it and Kurt Rosenwinkel recorded it. Let me see if I can find a lead sheet here. Okay, so I'm looking at this is just from the real book, and the changes are. Holy cow. Uh, what would I do? Gosh, I'd probably pick another song if it were me, but if it's a song that you like to play, I'll try to give it a real answer. Wow, that's so much harmony. Well, the first thing that I would do is I would listen to some versions of it. So try to bring it to life uh, off the page, not just what you see in the real book, but really trust your ears and get the music, try to internalize the music separate from whatever the real book says. So listen to the tune, listen to whatever recordings that you can find, Bud Powell, Kurt Rosenwinkel, George Shearing, maybe other people have recorded it too. Just listen to it and try to internalize it for a while without your guitar in hand. And then when you can do that, see if you can sing the melody. It looks like the melody is pretty intricate, so it's not going to be easy to sing, but you're going to need that as a guide because that will be one pathway through those chord changes. It may not be the simplest pathway, but it looks it looks like it would be a clear pathway. So somebody has already carved a way through those changes. Rather than you trying to figure out all the chord tones and all the chords and all of the possible scales and arpeggios and stuff, start from melodies. Learn the melody, learn it by ear if you can. If it's helpful for you to read it out of the real book that or wherever, that's fine too. But the thing would be to try to get as quickly as you can away from the page and just be able to play it from memory, right? And then, yeah, I would probably look for guide tone lines. It moves so fast. And it doesn't seem logical on the face of it. Um, First two bars are pretty easy. F half diminished, B flat 7, sharp 5 flat 9. But then right from there we get this. That looks, maybe I'm not reading that right. I would, as best as you can, I would try to think about key centers. I was mentioning key centers when I was talking about all the things you are. So the first two bars of conception, the key center is E flat minor. So you can think about this as 2/5 in E flat minor. But then it goes to E flat major, kind of a fake out, and then quickly to B major. That D flat minor 7, I would call that C sharp minor 7. So you can relate it. It's just the 2 chord of B major 7. And then there's a 2/5. Seems to be going to A flat. But at least in the real book, it's not A flat major, it's A flat 7. That's just, dominant chords moving down, kind of voice leading. So, gosh. I would just try to think of grabbing little chord shapes. Like this is A flat 7. This is G7. This is C7, B7. So maybe. When things are moving quickly like that, I look for little sort of miniature rootless chord shapes. Well, the A flat has the root on top, so not rootless, but baseless maybe is a better way to put it. And it keeps going, and now we have a 2/5 to F sharp, and then we go to the 4 chord. So this is all in one key: 2/5, 1, 4, and then 2/5 to E flat major. Looks like. Yeah, gosh, good for you. What a hard tune. Roberto, I'm curious what sparked you to want to learn that tune. Was it one particular recording, or did a teacher suggest it, or what got you interested in that tune? What a cool tune. Yeah, how's everybody doing? Hope you're all doing all right. Haven't seen a question in a little while, so I hope y'all are still there. I haven't bored anybody off. Oh, thanks. This is it's a guitar I've had for a little while. It's 1964. Think of this as my number one guitar. Any rhythm exercises? Jerry's asking about rhythm exercises. Yeah. Gosh. Huh. I don't know that I have any exercises for rhythm. If anybody else here does, uh, I'd be I'd be glad to sort of have everybody share what they do for rhythm. Uh, the things that I do is I practice with a metronome. That can help develop your internal clock for steady time, but that might not be what you're asking. When you say rhythm, that can mean for me like internal time, but also could mean you want to hear different subdivisions or different kind of rhythmic phrasing. So and I guess it depends on exactly what you're talking about, Jerry. So maybe you can say more. Uh, something that I like to do sometimes is play along with records where there's room to play. I made a playlist a while back. See if I can find it. Uh, mm, I'm gonna keep looking. Bear with me. It's really slow sometimes. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Well, you you could maybe make your own one. I'll tell you what it is. The thing that I'm looking for, and mm, yeah, I can't find the thing that I made. But what I was looking for in my Spotify was just uh, like there's a drummer named Nate Smith, and he has a record called Pocket Change that's entirely drums. There's no bass or guitar or singing. It's well on one tune there's some vocal stuff, but it's basically a record of drums playing. So I like to play along with that. And I have other records that I like to play along with that are a chance to play some rhythmic stuff on the guitar. Or I mean, I suppose you could also just improvise and play lines too. But um, Jerry, maybe you can just say more specifically what you're thinking about with rhythm. I feel like I'm kind of not zeroing in on the thing that you're asking about. So maybe you can tell me some more and I'll try to answer it. Oh, that's right. Billy Martin does have some albums like that, right? So I haven't checked those out, but I think that would be fun to play. I mean, for me, like developing rhythm is at this point, I mean, at different points in my life, maybe it's been different things, but what it is for me today is just trying to be able to groove well with other people. And so the metronome doesn't help that much. It only helps in that it's something going on outside of your own brain, your own hands that you can zero in on, but there's not much dynamic to it. And so it can something that can happen when you play with the metronome is that you just kind of take it for granted. Whereas like on this record, this Nate Smith record that I'm talking about, things change. There's he'll be playing one beat and then another thing happens and then another thing happens. It's kind of a song form. Most of the songs or most of the tracks feel like it's some kind of song going on, but you don't get to hear what the song is. You just hear what the drums are. I don't know if he's using a click, but his pocket is really steady, but it doesn't feel like a machine. It breathes. It's human. So that's what I'm working on with my rhythm. But I'm curious to know if there's specific stuff. And uh, sure, Roberto. I'm. I mean, I'm just kind of sharing what occurs to me, but looks like a really incredible tune. Good for you for tackling it. Um, if anybody else has records that they like to play with for rhythm, I'd be curious to know. Other stuff that it's not really an exercise, but just I like to move when I'm playing. So I'll put on a record and try to get the groove of it in my body. But again, that just has to do with internal rhythm. If you're trying to like learn how to play different subdivisions, or like 5/4 is a thing that you might want to work on, or another thing might just be uh, syncopation, and those would all require like different kinds of exercises. So I'd need to know more about what you mean. Uh, 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 that's not right. That's correct. Uh, Abril Del 85 says, "What moves you to compose a melody, a feeling?" Nowadays, yes. Again, there's been different times when I've been driven to write melodies by, I don't know, thinking about a scale or thinking about harmony. I mean, one way to compose a melody that can be nice, especially if you like jazz and you're familiar with the jazz repertoire, is to write a contrafact. So take a tune like Stella by Starlight, or uh, and any tune that you like to play, and try to write a new melody based on the chord changes. Uh, that can be a nice just as an exercise, but sometimes at the end of that you wind up with a tune that you could play. It doesn't have to be perfect the first draft. You might work on it for a few days or even weeks until you feel like it's really dialed in, and then you've got a nice tune to play. And instead of playing Stella by Starlight or All the Things You Are, you've got a tune of your own that's based on the chord changes and the form. So that's one way that I might write a melody. But yeah, another melody might just be from a mood or a color or a character. Uh, Sometimes I'm just inspired by the sound. I'll pick up my guitar and plug it in or not plug it in and just listen to the sound. just the sound that I'm hearing right now. Uh, that's just where my ears led me. But I could be inspired by uh, a painting or something. Like I recently went to see this Edward Hopper exhibit that's at the Whitney Museum, and I saw this painting. So I might just look at this painting. I mean, obviously this is not the painting, this is a postcard, but I might just look at that for a while and try to get inspired by what I see. uh, 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 yeah. So uh, I try to compose, like I say, now. The answer to this question would have been different 10 years ago, and would have been different 20 years ago. But early on, I was thinking a lot about materials. Uh, I'd be learning a new scale, a melodic minor or something like that, and I would try to incorporate the materials I was working on into a tune, and that's nice because then when you want to work on that material, you're not just working on just boring scales and arpeggios. You've actually got a piece of music that incorporates that. So I think that that's a valuable way to spend your time, is to compose pieces of music that use the materials that you're interested in right now. Um, but where I'm at in my musical life these days is not so deep in materials, and just trying to think more about emotion and atmosphere and stuff like that. So I tend to write more from there. But do whatever inspires you is cool. I mean, anything that gets you to write something is great. Uh, um, yeah, yeah. That's you can see. That's funny that you can see this book. Yeah, page 21 intervals. Uh, that's, if I am not mistaken, right before that. There's stuff about, well, right in there is the counterpoint stuff. Yeah, he talks about playing all the possible intervals on adjacent strings, so seconds. Uh, uh, there it is. And then thirds and fourths and fifths and sixths and sevenths And then he talks about counterpoint, and that's a really interesting part of the book. And I can't either right before that or right after it, he talks about playing an open position, and that's before he gets into uh, position playing, I think. Anyway, so yeah, like this is an absolutely invaluable book, especially if you're looking for material to work on. Um, Towards the end, there's a whole bunch of great stuff called commentaries. And for me, this is stuff that is just pure gold to me, in addition to all of the stuff. It's a lifetime of work, which is really humbling. But then this stuff towards the back is just great. Uh, some attitude adjustment stuff. Like there's a little section here called "Feeling Stale," and he makes some suggestions. Play on the tunes that you are currently playing, but at least twice as slow. This way, if you start to play any of your pet licks or your beef stew, it will sound so bad to you that you'll probably stop right in the middle and quite possibly actually start to improvise, since at the slower tempo, you'll have much more time and space to think slash hear slash feel other kinds of ideas. And one more. Well, here's a couple more from this section. I love it. Ask yourself, is there anything really important in music that I've forgotten about? Feed a loaf of bread to some pigeons or ducks or seagulls or other types of birds. Imagine a time or circumstance where you could never play the guitar again. Holy cow. Um, that happens to people. So maybe that might inspire you to play. Another thing he says is cry. Another thing he says, anyway, you can read it. But I love this book. If you find yourself reading it and you get overwhelmed by the actual, the music stuff, you can skip to the back, and it's just good for adjusting your headspace. Yeah, that book is, yeah, your teacher was right, Florian. You could open to any page in that book and practice for at least 2 years. Yeah, it's just the important thing is to not feel bad about that. I mean, that's something to feel good about, uh, because, I mean, one way to look at it is what an incredible value. This book cost me $24, and I've gotten, if your teacher's correct, you can get 2 years guitar lesson off of one page, and the whole book costs $24. So it's a great bargain. And there's just never a dull moment. And that's music. I mean, that's a life in music. But it's also amazing. I did the math once. I think when this book was published, Mick Goodrick was like 42 years old or something, which I'm 56. 42 seems kind of young to me. I don't know how he had that much wisdom, or, uh, you know, but I'm just glad he did, and I'm glad he shared it with us. Um, let's see. How do you approach your style when playing a blues? That's a good question. Um, I don't know. Let me see what I can do. I'm going to play a blues in C. I'll play three choruses. One, two, three. Yeah. influences. Um, how do I mean, what's my style? Uh, I love the blues. I really try to walk this line between playing the blues with some authentic vocabulary and yet not playing the same cliche blues stuff that we hear all the time. Like I I know those licks or some of them anyway, and I like them in other people's hands, but I feel like I don't need to play them to in order to play the blues. The blues can be so many different things. Uh, I like harmony, so I might superimpose some harmony or suggest some harmony in my lines that's not just the one, the four, and the five chord. Um, I try to think about a shape, having some kind of shape to the whole thing. I said I was going to play three choruses, so I knew when I started that the third chorus was going to be the most uh, peak of whatever it is that I'm doing. So I started in a lower register and worked my way up higher. I tried to repeat some themes. I tried to um, not just go from lick to lick, uh, as can easily happen when you're playing the blues, but tried to keep it musical, which is developing an idea, and that's what I try to do. Florian says, that's great stuff. If you never get bored, I have the same with Miles Okazaki's book, Fundamentals of Guitar. The first page on picking in the middle changed a lot for me. Yeah. That book, the picking stuff, well, there's some stuff about picking where he gets into like drum rudiments. I don't know if you're talking about that part or there's this like 16th note triplet thing on chromatic. I think that's somewhere in the middle. It's this chromatic thing but that has to do with fingering. His picking thing is um, it's very systematic and uh, I don't know. The way that I play is not as systemized, but what he's doing on the guitar is so incredible. I don't know how you could do it without having such a specific approach to picking. Anyway, Miles is an incredible guitarist, and that book is another gold mine. That if just buy that book or this book, or there's probably other books, but those are two that I think are, as far as like bang for your buck, it's pretty hard to beat those books because you're never going to run out of stuff to work on. And I go back to stuff in both of those books, things that I think I've gotten the lesson, but then I see like, oh, I missed that little detail. Let me go back and do it again. Yeah, about symmetrical picking. Okay, yeah. Aloha, sir. I love your playing and taste of phrasing. It's textural, but importantly, it has love behind it. Oh, well, thanks. I hope so. Uh, that's, yeah, that's what it's about. I don't know. I want to stop it in a couple minutes. Does anyone have one more, like, kind of quick question that I could get into? Abril del 85 is one of the best guitarists in Spain. Awesome. Wow. Uh, how can I hear this great guitar player? Now I'm really intrigued. Um, uh, is Brildel? Is it Alex Brildel? Is that your name? Can I hear you somewhere? Rogue 70, help me out. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear this guitar player. Mm. Well, I'm very curious to hear you. If you want to share a link here, that would be great. Then we could all hear you. Um, anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's been an hour. Alejandro, okay, Alejandro Brildel. Uh, do you have music somewhere that we can hear? I'll wait for the response, but I'll keep going in the direction I was going, which is to say, I'm going to sign off. And thanks for your questions and comments. And I'll try to do another one of these pretty soon. Take care, everybody. Really appreciate you tuning in.